Hey, read through the word. Today is April 15th. How are you doing today? Today's lesson is called, oh goodness, what am I going to call about this? We're going to call it Motivated by Love. That's what we're going to call today's lesson, Motivated by Love. Let me tell you how we got here today. So, I was not real sure which text I was going to look at to record my lesson. So, spoiler, y'all know how this goes. I'm recording this, so I'm recording April 15th on April 10th. So I had school today, and then I told Linda I would have everything recorded tonight. She asked if I could have it done. And I told her, sure, I would do it tonight for her. And so I'm recording this, and I didn't know what I was going to record. I said, I'll get it done. And I had conversations with my students today over some issues that have been happening, and just typical teenager stuff. I spend my day with teenagers. And I turn into Mama Nance a lot at school. And one of my students said, Miss Nance, we take things really serious. I said, do y'all get mad at me when I talk to you like this? And they said, no, we take it very seriously. Because when you get serious like this, we're like, uh-oh, we need to pay attention. And I said, well, it's the mama in me. But we were having conversations about some things, and I want to talk about it. But when I got home and was like, okay, I need to get detailed about my lesson, and I started reading through the scripture again, and this verse just popped out at me, and I went, oh my word. I mean, so much so that I'm going to go tomorrow and have this same talk with my students. We're going to have this talk, because I was like, goodness, that verse, it made things like click with me. And I'm like, we're really going to, and much of what I said with my kids, I call them my kids today, really had to do with this. So it was like, that's what happens a lot of times. And it's amazing to watch the Lord work that way, is my two worlds collide. Or not even collide, they mesh. They don't collide, they mesh. So my two worlds meshed today, and they mesh a lot. My kids get so many of these lessons, it's not even funny. I'm like, I just taught about that. And so they'll get I end up talking a lot about things with them. But I want us to look at 1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 17. And it says this, and Jonathan made David reaffirm his vow of friendship again, for Jonathan loved David as he loved himself. So, I've got, hold on. Oh, I need to grab a Bible. Another Bible to look up some verses. Okay, y'all don't look. It's like, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Don't pay attention to the stuff on the shelf behind me, because the shelf's messy, but usually my body hides it. So, hold on. I'm back. Okay, so, I need my Bible. Another Bible with me. So, it really comes down to, what is friendship? What is friendship? So, the typical idea of friendship is you want to be liked. In the teenage world and the adult world, I mean, I want everybody to like me. I had to get past that as a teacher, that I wanted everybody to like me, because my kids know I show my love for them. And our memory verse this week in school is, we're doing Hebrews 12, 5 and 6. And basically it's talking about the Lord disciplines those he loves. Those are his children. And I'm like, you're mine. So we have lots of discussions. Well, the discussion we had today was about loving friends in a godly way. And they have real conversations with me. They're like, Miss Nance, peer pressure is like a real thing. I said, I'm aware of that. I said, can I tell? I said, honey, peer pressure never goes away. You're going to be peer pressured when you're 52 years old. By Instagram I said, it's never going to go away. So let's learn how to deal with it now. And I said, if peer pressure is that way, then why aren't you the peer pressuring people in the right way? So our big conversation has been about how are you a godly friend? Now, my school is different. And we've talked about this some, I'm not sure. But when you, like the association we're accredited through, when you're accredited, you are, you have the option of being a missional school or a covenant school. Those are two types of private Christian schools you can be in the association we're in, through our accreditation. And so a missional school is a school that is a Christian school, and as long as you agree with their statement of faith, anybody can come. A covenant school is a school that is in covenant, much like you are in church membership, in covenant with families, meaning that we are discipling students from Christian families who, and they have to be an active member of their church. They have to have a letter of recommendation from their pastor to even apply for a interview. That's like one of the first steps. And you have an interview process and all of that. And so then when you enter our school, our handbook establishes that these are the standards of Christian behavior. And we have all claimed that we want to live in Christian standards. And so when we don't, we're held accountable on those. And so having the conversation with students to hold them accountable on things, trying to live like teenagers in this world with a phone constantly tempting them, and with the typical things that go on in high school and middle school. And so my conversation a lot is, okay, I said, friendship's not about making sure everybody likes you. And I constantly tell my students, surround yourself with 3 to 5 people. So you don't have to be friends with everybody in the school. I said, that's just not humanly possible. Like close friendships. If we had time, I'd go into the different levels of friendship like I do with them. But, you typically have like best friends, and you have friends, and you have acquaintances. And I said, you need to surround yourself with people who are trying to grow closer to the Lord, who you're having your quiet time, you're in the Word, you're praying, and you need to hold each other accountable. But when you hold someone else accountable, you need to be able to respond with that. I said, that's what true friendship looks like. And what that looks like. And so the importance that friends are important. The Bible tells us that. A friendship is a relationship we have with a chosen companion. And then there are different types of friendship. I tell them all the time, I said, you can have friends at school, but they're not going to be the ones you might go hang out at their house or you do that. I said, you know what? I have plenty of friends. We're friends, but I said, the older you get, I hang out with my husband. I don't go hang out. And of making sure that the people that are closest to you are those who are seeking to grow in the Lord just like you are. Because that's the purpose. One of the purposes of friendship is friendships are supposed to encourage spiritual growth. That's one of the things. And that's my constant reminder with my students. And I have a group of young men that then they show it to me. They have a group text with them all, and they're all like daily. They have to respond where they're reading in the Word. and what they're learning and all of that. And I need to check on them again tomorrow and make sure it's still going on. But a lot of times they're like, look what's going on right now, Miss Nance. So it's supposed to encourage spiritual growth. They help us to see God's goodness in our life with the importance of friends. But there are such a thing as bad friends, and the Bible tells us about that. So in Proverbs 16:29, it talks about not to have violent friends. In Proverbs 22:24, I'm going to put all these in your notes. 24 through 25, it says not to have angry friends. In Ephesians 5:18 says not to have friends that are drunkards. And this is the one I'm dealing with the most with my students. Be careful of friends who regard wisdom and instruction with hate and disgust. Or those, so Proverbs 1:7 and Proverbs 12:15 say that. Or people who mock that which is good and godly. Proverbs 14:9, and then Proverbs 20:19 tells us to stay away from those who make fun of spiritual things, that criticize others unnecessarily, that show contempt for those who are different or weak, that betray trust and share secrets, that create drama and division for no good reason. I always tell my students, I said, you know what? If you're sitting at the lunch table and people start gossiping about someone with you and talking about somebody, I said that you need to be bold enough where you can stop it and say, hey, this is not godly. We need to stop. I said, but I would also tell you to pay attention to what makes them feel comfortable talking or slandering someone to you. How do they feel comfortable talking about somebody to you? What kind of friend does that make you to them? So this friendship thing, we look because the idea of loving someone is meaning putting someone else first. Think about others. So many times with friendship, we think it's all about me, 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 me. What can they do for me? What can they give me? I said, when you look at God has a design for friendship, and friendship is to glorify Him, because good friends reflect the way that God treats us. Good friends, 1 John 3:14 through 17, they display true love, not worldly love, but true love. Godly friends share truth. Ephesians 4:15. That's my conversation I'm having with my students now. You have got to be bold enough to have the awkward conversation. And a lot of what I'm going through, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to turn around and go tell them tomorrow morning. Because once I started sitting down and looking up verses and everything, I went, oh my word, I need to tell my kids, write this on the board and make a list. But this idea of being able to share truth. So you know what? The conversation is not as awkward when a person knows that you love them. That true friendship. I want you to look at the awkward conversations that have to happen between Jonathan and David. I mean, how hard is it when Jonathan has to tell David, well, the signs, how he tells him, don't come because my dad's going to kill you. Yeah, by the way, Dad wants you dead. That's an awkward conversation. If he he should have said, oh, come on to dinner, and his daddy would have killed him. But an awkward conversation is not ungodly. It's actually godly. And I told my students, I said, you will have awkward conversations for the rest of your life. You need to just go ahead and learn how to do it. Get it over with. I said, there are many conversations I have with you, and I know you think they're awkward. I said, they're awkward with me, but because of my love for you and want to see you grow in godliness, I have them with you. And I think if we were to view friendship the way God designed us to view it, it could truly change our lives. It really could. And I think that's what we see here with Jonathan and David. So we'll see you next time on Read Through the Word.